Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do a good old book haul. This is going to be a combination of books I bought myself as well as review copies and a few generous gifts from online friends and authors. So all that being said, I'm going to have timestamps down below if you want to skip around to the different sections. I have some really great books to talk about here, some books I'm really excited to add to my shelves, and let's just get started. First, let's start with the books that I bought for myself, because personally I find that the most interesting parts of book hauls. I like to know where other readers decide to spend their money, and so these are books that I personally thought were worth investing in. And I've said before, for the most part I try to buy books that I've already read and loved enough that I want to own copies of them. I am a big rereader, so I do revisit my favorites throughout the years, and I really do want my shelves to reflect my reading taste. And then on the flip side, I am also including some books that I haven't read, but I really believe they're going to be favorites, so hopefully that turns out well. All that being said, these are all books that I bought through Book Outlet. If you've never used that site before, I do have a referral code that gives you $10 off your first order, but I am always tempted by their oh so cheap books. And yeah, I think I got some good ones here, so let's get into it. First, let's start with the stack that is Octavia E. Butler. I got a copy of Fledgling, which I already read a few years ago and I really enjoyed. It's definitely one I want to reread. This is set in a futuristic world where there are vampires among us, and the story particularly follows a young black girl who is, as it turns out, is a vampire. And this I liked because while I often say that I'm not a big fan of vampire stories, this one worked so well for me because the vampires have more of a scientific explanation for them. I really like Octavia E. Butler's writing. The other book I've read from her is Kindred, which I don't have a copy of yet. I probably want to get one, and I really want to get it in this nice white edition. So really excited to have a copy of this. And then sticking with Octavia E. Butler, I also got a copy of Lilith's Brood, which is a bind-up of 3 of her books that are sci-fi books set in space. And the first one is called Dawn, and this was on my TBR for 2021. And this is a book I have not yet read yet. Again, it's actually 3 books in one, so it's a trilogy. And I just have really high hopes for it because this is science fiction. I love her writing. It's going to be diverse and unique, and I've heard just amazing things about it. So again, this is a book that I haven't read, but I will likely be reviewing very soon because I really try to read and get to the books I buy right away, rather than leaving them unread on my shelves for an indefinite amount of time. So hopefully, while I'm still really excited about it, I'll get to it in the next few months. Along a similar line, I also picked up Seed to Harvest by Octavia E. Butler, which is, I believe, a quartet of 4 of her books, and these ones are more fantasy. I started reading the first book in the series, Wild Seed, on Scribd, and I really liked it. It kind of gave me N.K. Jemisin vibes, which you know is always a really good thing. So I know it's kind of a diverse book that deals with goddesses and harvesting, and I believe it plays with kind of gender roles, and of course has, again, good aspects of diversity and conversations about class and so forth. So it's definitely one I want to get to. Of the 2 bind-ups I have not read yet, I definitely want to prioritize Lilith's Brood, but I definitely also want to get to this one sooner than later, so it probably won't be that much afterwards that I pick this one up. But yeah, excited for this one. I don't feel like I know as much about it. I feel like it's not as popular as some for other works, but again, I want to read everything she has written at this point, so excited for this. Now switching over to some science fiction, I also got a copy of The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. This is a science fiction book that is translated from China and I believe involves the Chinese industrial and social revolution. And I've heard that it involves some really hard science. For the most part, it's quite beloved, although not everyone gets along with it. I have not read this myself, so I'm taking a chance, hoping it's going to be a favorite. I'm really trying to read through a lot of the really popular and iconic sci-fi books out there, and lately I'm just craving hard science fiction. So this is the first in the trilogy, and I held off buying the later books, but I am planning on reading this really soon, probably in this month. So expect a review of this sooner than later. And speaking of hard science fiction books I love, I also got myself a copy of Blind Sight by Peter Watts. After reading and loving it so much, I knew I wanted a copy. This is the Tor.com Essentials copy of it. and it's definitely one I want to reread. Honestly, I'm probably going to reread this one like really soon, even though I just read it, because it's a book that is so complicated and just demands rereading. There is so much packed into this, and the ending is wow. And yeah, I want to revisit this again so badly. So it was a no-brainer when I saw it available in Book Outlet. I was like, I need this copy, and yeah, this is going to happen because I need to revisit this book. I'm still thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about it. And because I love Blindside so much, when Book Outlet also had the sequel on there, Echopraxia, I decided to pick that one up. The covers don't match because, again, it's not part of the Tor.com Essentials line, but that's okay. This one is still very nice. I have heard mixed things about it. I know Lena from Efficiently Advanced, Lena did not like it at all, but I've seen still some very good reviews. I have sampled the first chapter and it definitely grabbed my attention. It's that same hard science fiction, and I just, again, want to spend more time in the world. I love the first book so much that I feel like I can't not try the second book. And again, it was fairly cheap, so it just, yeah, hooked me in, and it ended up in my shopping cart. So I'll keep you posted how the sequel goes. And as I mentioned, I'm starting to read through more science fiction classics, and so I got a copy of the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, and this is one I actually have already read, but you have not seen my review. This, of course, is the classic story of Earth going to explore Mars and finding that Martians already exist there, and it is so cute and cozy. You'll have to wait for my longer review so that I don't just turn this whole video into a book review. But needless to say, I'm really happy to have my own copy because it's, again, one I want to revisit, and this is just in really nice condition, a nice kind of floppy trade back style, and yeah, I really like it. I've been very impressed by Ray Bradbury. I definitely want to read more of his work in general. And speaking of classics, I also got a copy of Invasion of the Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. This is the 60th anniversary edition, and I picked up this book because I saw a gushing review of it by Marianna over at Impression Blends, linked down below to her channel, and she listed this, I believe, as one of her favorite books of the year, or at least I think her favorite books of that summer. And we have such similar tastes in books that when she likes a book, it always ends up on my TBR. And I don't actually think my library had a copy of this. I could only get a copy of the audio, and I didn't love the narration enough, so I decided to get a physical copy of it. And again, relatively cheap, a beautiful cover, and I understand this is kind of sci-fi horror, which is right up my alley, so I'm definitely hopeful that I will love this one as much as she did. Finally, for books that I bought myself, I also picked up a copy of Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden, which is a space opera set in a future where humans go off to not colonize planets, but instead colonize space-faring creatures. This book is weird. It has lots of great diversity and also some really weird body horror kind of woven into the story. I love it so much, and I really want my own copy because, again, you know, it's one that I have reread since I first picked it up and declared it a favorite, and it's one I will definitely revisit again. Plus, the cover is absolutely gorgeous. Now, moving on to books that I received from publishers, the first one I want to talk about is Symbiosis by Nikki Drayden, which of course is the sequel to the book I just talked about. This book was not quite as good as the original, but I still really enjoyed spending time with the characters. I have already reviewed this on my channel, so if I remember, I'll have that video linked. But again, the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and I really do love this futuristic world. I really, again, need to read more by Nikki Drayden. I think her other books are more kind of sci-fantasy, but at this point I just want to spend more time in her worlds because I like her brain. She really writes weird science fiction and fantasy, and I definitely enjoy where her stories tend to go. Another book I have already reviewed, and that is The Light Years by R.W.W. Green, and this is a future story that plays with relativity of time, where there is a marriage contract where the one person is younger than the other, but throughout time they will come together to be the same age when they get together and get married. This is not a romance book, but really a character study, a coming of age story. Loved it so much. It's quiet, it's accessible. Again, I've reviewed it, so link down below if you want to hear more of my thoughts, but this is one I do recommend. I don't feel like it gets talked enough about online. I also received a copy of The Girl Who Died by Ragnar Johansson, and this is a translated book that I received from the publisher. This is one of my most anticipated thrillers of the year. I've already read it. I think my review is coming in the next video, so it shouldn't be long if you're waiting to hear my thoughts on it. The short is that this is about a young woman living in Iceland, and she goes to take a job in a very isolated community that has only 10 citizens living there, and there is a murder mystery involved, and it's just everything I love so much about this author. It is cold and isolating and atmospheric and was really enjoyable, so wait for my longer thoughts so that I don't want to be too repetitive here. Next I have Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. This is a book that just showed up in time for this book haul. I was so excited. I have not yet read it yet, but honestly, I'm not going to wait long. This follows a man whose wife has recently passed away, and in going through her possessions, he finds a receipt for a hotel, which tells him that she has perhaps some secrets, some things that she was keeping from him. And so in the process of dealing with his grief, he decides to go on a road trip to find out what she was keeping from him. And I am so excited for wherever this book goes. It's supposed to be horror, and I just love his storytelling. So high hopes for this one to be a favorite of the year, and you know I'm going to keep you posted. You know I'm going to include this in a future review video. And another highly anticipated release is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is one I have already read and gushed about in a previous video talking about my best books coming out for 2021. This is set in a historical version of China where there is a young girl whose family dies tragically at the beginning of the story, and she takes on her brother's identity in order to train and become a fighter. This is that Asian-inspired fantasy that I love so much. It has a historical setting, and yeah, it's fantastic. Wait for my longer review because again, it's going to be coming down the road. Last for review copies, I just received A Broken Darkness by Premi Muhammad. This is the follow-up to the duology that started with Beneath the Rising. This is a sci-fi horror book that is like cosmic horror, and can we just take a moment to appreciate these covers because they're absolutely gorgeous. They go so well together. I enjoyed the first book. It was a favorite of last year, and so I have already read this book, and again, the review should be coming very shortly. But if you like very character-driven sci-fi horror, if you like cosmic horror, this one might be one you want to pay attention to. Last, I want to talk about a few books that I received from my bookish friends. I do include my Amazon wish list in my description box if people are ever looking to see what books are on there. And so I was pleasantly crazy surprised when I received a copy of Ramina by Junji Ito, which is at this time, his newest release. And this is a book I was dying to get my hands on, and my library was not getting a copy, and I really wanted to buy it, but again, it was waiting on my wish list. I was just holding off. And then wonderful Elizabeth Sage picked it up for me. So she is another booktuber who does a lot of fantastic horror book reviews, so I'm going to link her channel down below. And she just sent it off as just a really kind gesture. I love her channel, so I really hope you do check it out as well. But this is a book I have already reviewed. Again, a piece of like sci-fi cosmic horror. And if you don't know, I am collecting all of Junji Ito's books, so I was so grateful to receive a copy. And this one is definitely worth owning because the artwork is just everything you would expect. It is weird and creepy and everything I love about his work. So very thankful for this one here. And apparently my friends know how much I love Junji Ito because the other book I received from my dear friend Brandy was Gaio by, again, Junji Ito. And this is a manga that is set in a future of Japan where there are these fish with legs that start crawling along the beaches onto the mainland. And it's a book I've read before, but I wanted to reread again and actually got the opportunity to. And so I was so grateful to get a copy. This is the same edition that goes really nicely with my copy of Uzumaki. And again, just like love to collect these books. I love to reread them. I really want to get my husband to try them out because I actually think he might really enjoy them because he does really like nice aesthetics and artwork because he's kind of more of an artsy guy. So that's always a hope with owning them, is that I can maybe slide them onto his nightstand and maybe he'll pick one up. But I received this book from Brandy, who is a dear friend online and also a booktuber as well. She has her channel Bookclectic, and she does a combination of a whole bunch of different genres. I'd say a lot of horror, thrillers, as well as quite a bit of science fiction. And what I want to recommend about her channel is that she does a lot more underhyped books. So if you're someone who watches Booktube and gets so tired of everyone talking about the same books over and over again, she's a channel you might find really refreshing because she reads books that I've never heard of before. She does a lot of reviews and tags and just, again, like finds books that are so off the radar, so off the beaten path, and her excitement and enthusiasm on camera is just so fun, and definitely recommend her. Love her. She's, again, a good friend of mine, so I was really grateful when she decided to treat me to this wonderful book. And finally, I did receive a mug in the mail, which is a little bit different, and that is from Harmful Monkey Press, which is Chris Sorensen's publication house that he prints the Messy Man books under. Let's start with The Nightmare Room, and of course I finished out the trilogy, so I'm hoping the fact that he's sending out a publication, marketing material, hopefully that's a good sign that he has some books on the way. I'm very much excited to see what he's going to put out next. I've heard whispers online, but nothing official, nothing I can say publicly, but yeah, really excited for this. I love coffee, so I've definitely made use of this, although I'm tempted honestly to use it as one of my decorations. I kind of like to put some swag around my bookshelf so that you have something to look at while I'm yabbering on about different books here. But otherwise, I think that's it for the haul itself. So thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your comments down below about the books that I received. Of the books I haven't read, let me know which ones you think I should prioritize, which ones you think I'll like. And I'd also love to hear from you if you bought some really nice or exciting books in the last while. Again, Book Outlet can be really exciting, but also a really dangerous place to browse online. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. This haul is pretty representative of what I read, so horror, thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy. You could help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online, and you can hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.